All right, so today we're diving into a case that really, I think, it shook a lot of people when it happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's one that I think, it's important to look at not just kind of the surface level of what happened, but like, what are some of the things underneath? What are some of the things we can learn from it? It's the Watts family murders.
Right.
And so I think, a lot of people are familiar with like the basics of this case, but like to kind of set the stage, we have Chris Watts, who, outwardly seemed like a very loving father and husband.
Right.
His wife, Shanann, was very, active on social media, and, they lived in Frederick, Colorado, and they had these two beautiful little girls, Bella and Celeste.
Yeah. Picture perfect family, at least on the surface.
Exactly. And, they were expecting their third child.
Right.
But, obviously we know that image was shattered in August of 2018.
Yes, August 13th, 2018. Shanann, she had been on a business trip, and she came home, and that's kind of when everything went dark.
Yeah, and so, one of the things that's really, I think, disturbing about this case is, the way that Chris Watts initially acted.
Yeah.
He went on the news, he was, pleading for their return.
Yeah, playing the concerned husband.
Right. And so, it just goes to show how, deceptive things can be, and how we can't always judge a book by its cover.
Absolutely. And you see those interviews now knowing what we know, and it's chilling how convincing he was.
Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah, and it's a reminder, I think, for all of us that we don't always know what's going on behind closed doors.
Exactly. And then, the bodies were discovered, and the details are just horrifying. Shanann was found buried in a shallow grave.
Yeah.
The girls, Bella and Celeste, were submerged in oil tanks at Chris's worksite.
Right. And the brutality of it, not only the murders, but then to dispose of their bodies that way.
Right.
It's just beyond comprehension, I think, for most people.
And then, even after confessing, he tried to shift the blame onto Shanann, claiming that she had harmed the girls.
Right. Trying to control the narrative, even when the truth was coming out.
Right. But of course, the investigation completely debunked that.
Yeah. And, I think that's another layer to this case that's really fascinating and disturbing, is like what was going through his mind. What leads someone not only to do something so horrific, but then to try to manipulate people even after they've been caught.
Right. Yeah. It really speaks to like a level of a lack of remorse, I guess.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, the motive, it came out that he was having an affair with a coworker, Nicole Kessinger.
Yeah. And it seemed like he wanted to start this new life. And his family was in the way.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the premeditation of it.
Absolutely.
He wasn't just like caught in a moment of rage. It was like, this was planned out.
Right. It was cold and calculated.
Right. Yeah.
And it just shows that, even the people we think we know, even the people closest to us, they're capable of terrible things.
So, I think, a lot of times when we talk about cases like this, we tend to focus on the perpetrator.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to also remember the victims.
Absolutely.
To remember Shanann and who she was. She was, a mother who was, very involved in her kids' lives. She was, a strong advocate for Celeste, who, had a health condition.
Right.
She was an individual.
Yeah.
And then Bella and Celeste, they were just little girls.
They had their whole lives ahead of them.
Right.
And, to think about those final moments, what they must have gone through, it's just heart-wrenching.
Yeah. Can you imagine the terror? To be, smothered by your own father in the backseat of a truck. It's unimaginable.
It's a level of betrayal and terror that's just impossible to really grasp, I think.
Yeah. And so, in the end, Chris Watts was sentenced to 5 life sentences without parole.
Yeah.
And, it's I guess the question is that justice?
Yeah. Is there any sentence that can truly address the taking of 3 innocent lives?
Right.
I think that's a question that, everyone has to grapple with on their own.
It's such a senseless tragedy.
It really is. And, going back to the beginning, it's that facade, right? This picture perfect family on social media, but, behind closed doors, something completely different was happening.
All right. And so, I think, one of the things that this case really, I think, makes us think about is, are there warning signs? Are there things that, maybe friends and family could have picked up on?
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with after, a tragedy like this is, could we have seen this coming? Could we have done something? And, sometimes there are red flags,
Yeah.
sometimes there are changes in behavior,
Right.
but, it's not always easy to see those things in the moment.
Right.
And I think it's important to trust our gut. If something feels off, if something feels wrong, don't be afraid to speak up, to ask questions, to reach out for help.
I think that's such an important point. We can't be afraid to say something if we see something that's concerning.
Right.
And it's a reminder that evil can hide in plain sight.
It can, and that's the scary part.
So I mean, I think this deep dive into the Watts family murders, it's been really heavy.
Yeah.
But it's so important, I think, to have these conversations.
Right.
Because it's a reminder that we have to be vigilant. We have to be aware of the complexities of human nature, right? And we have to cherish our loved ones.
Yeah, and I think if there's anything positive that can come out of something like this, it's that it can make us more aware.
Yeah.
It can make us more attuned to what's going on around us, to the people in our lives.
And maybe it can even prevent something like this from happening again.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean that's the hope.
Mm-hmm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the question for everyone listening is, what could have prevented this? Could there have been signs that were missed? And, what can we do to be more aware and to protect the people that we love?
It's a haunting question, but it's an important one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a tough one, but I think it's been a valuable one.
I agree.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.